You're welcome back. This is Business Morning coming to you from Channels Television. We've been discussing regulatory conflicts in the public and private sector. This has to do with the issue of enforcement, who takes which role, who is the primary regulator in any sector of the economy. And we've been discussing with Ms. Aderike Aderemi. She is a senior associate with George Etomi and the partners. Thank you, Ms. Aderemi, for still being on the program. Let's take a look at the issue of impacts, the impact of these conflicts on businesses, whether large scale or even medium scale.
We discussed earlier on that we're looking for foreign direct investment in the Nigerian, all the business sectors, where there's, where people looking in seem to perceive that there's conflict. They will not be ready to, invest in the country. They won't want to nobody wants to put their money where there are issues, where they're not sure of what's going to happen. If you take a look at the situation with MTN, which was recently fined by the NCC, it was billions of dollars. And from, looking back, they were fined like profits for the last 2 years for that particular company. Now, if they have to pay such a fine, it will mean they have to operate for the next 2 years with no profit. They'll pay staff, they'll pay for their business addresses, they will still run their business without any profit. Now, that figure is approximately 1/8 of our budget. And that was a fine that was applied to a company. Now, we don't want to scare away investors from Nigeria. We also realize that there have to be checks and balances.
Do you think that this was as a result of any conflict between regulators?
More than anything,
that the company was fined?
We don't know. More than anything, that was not as a result of a conflict. We're talking generally about how businesses can be affected by all these massive fines. Okay. With regard to conflict, the main issue would be that if seemingly to the public there seems to be issues within the sector, it will be difficult to convince people to invest money. What we're looking for is growth in the various sectors. We don't want them to be stagnant. We're looking to expand and at the same time protect the consumer. So if there's no expansion, then it's not like there's no point, but what is the focus? So if there's conflict, what they should do is focus on the growth of the sector they're in, rather than infighting or trying to, create a situation whereby one is perceived to be supreme to the other,
In an instance where a company was informed about a particular issue and the company refused to take the appropriate action in correcting any problem, and that could lead to bringing regulators into conflict, what do you think should be done in that respect?
In that particular situation, then it's only right for the regulator to get involved. We are all guided by laws, rules and regulations. They're there to not only guide us, but to protect us. Because otherwise we would all live as barbarians and everybody would do whatever they wanted to do. So in that situation, having a regulator get involved is the proper step to take. However, it has to be the right regulator for whatever that issue is at that point in time.
And that sometimes brings some kind of disagreement, because if you want to know who should I report to in this instance. If I do this and I get things wrong, who would come after me? And that, I think, is creating some kind of confusion in some sectors.
I think more than anything, each of the regulators is aware of what their roles and what their functions are. I think it's the public, or rather the companies, that, like in the instance where, a telco stated that the NCC is its regulator, it needs to be aware that there are other regulators, within that particular sector there also, and it should be open, to have, and it should be willing to allow them do their jobs too at the same time. Apart from the fact that we're aware that the NCC was a regulator in that instance. However, other regulators are tasked with, doing their own jobs also within the different sectors. So there should be, like I said, it seems like there's confusion within, these different sectors, which is why we keep on emphasizing that there have to be proper mechanisms set in place. There should be interactive forums.
Okay. Between regulators in a particular sector.
Yes, between the regulators and also the different parties, the players within the sector also. They all need to be, they need to communicate with each other so that they don't misunderstand each other and they're aware of who does what.
All right, I'm sure we have a new administration in place. What do you expect the authorities should do in regards to enforcing what the law requires to businesses? Are we compliant, really, to the rules and regulations of every business, of every sector in the economy?
There are, like you said, rules and regulations in place, and there are sanctions and fines for not adhering to such. It's now left to each regulator to ensure that, its regulation, that, its laws, its rules are being, adhered to by the players within the sector, which is why they have to have checks, systems of checking the actions of these players.
Especially on a short-term basis, not wait until when things seems to get out of hand.
Precisely.
And you now begin to have
so much information at the same time.
Pages on the newspaper, and people begin to wonder, oh, this has been going on. I think don't you think we should have this short-term mechanism per time, checking what company A is doing, what company B is doing?
A lot of the sectors actually have reporting, they have to report. I'm aware that the banking sector, there are reports that they make to different agencies, to different regulatory bodies, so to say. And as long as they don't get covered up by the paperwork and they keep an eye on things on the short term, then it's possible to sort of like ensure that people, these companies are on the straight and narrow, and that they do what they're supposed to do.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, Elata, thank you so much for coming on the program, Ms. Aderike Aderemi. She is a senior associate at George Etomi and Partners. We've been talking about regulatory conflicts, both in the public and private sector. How do you enforce rules and guidelines for the successful operation of companies in particular sectors of the economy, and what are the implications of not abiding by the rules set by the authorities in those sectors? Thank you so much for your time. Okay, just before we go, a reminder that this week we're expecting the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Adeosun, to meet with the economic team and other revenue-generating bodies in the country, talking about the NNPC and the customs, of course, looking at how to help move the economy forward, especially in relation to the 2016 budget. And so emphasis will be laid on how to ensure that we meet the regulatory threshold in terms of putting together the 2016 budget and ensuring that the economy moves forward. The fuel scarcity is still going on, and of course, our Minister of Petroleum, President Muhammadu Buhari, is expected to also meet with different agencies in that sector to ensure that we resolve the problems facing the petroleum industry, ensuring that Nigerians have enough access to the premium motor spirit and other products that are required for their daily living. And of course, we told you earlier on, a discussion with business editor Busna Mafai on the issues, the challenges facing Nigerians in the southeast, where we're seeing PMS going for as high as 200 naira per litre in some towns and cities. Retail price of petrol breaches 200 naira per litre in some towns and cities. We're seeing petrol retailers yet to receive outstanding 413 billion naira subsidy money announced by the federal government some 2 weeks ago. Transportation costs, talking about the implication of these scarcity on Nigerians. Transportation costs are soaring, and that may continue to go higher, of course, as scarcity of petrol products continue. We see major cities like Lagos, Abuja, Warri, and Akure facing the problem of scarcity at this point in time. On that note, we've come to the end of Business Morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We hope to see you again same time tomorrow. I am Bolaji Akinwale. Bye for now.